Assalamu alaikum salah. Just before we begin, if you support the Young Smirks podcast and you want to help support the channel, please go to the Patreon below and support us monthly so we can keep up with the shows. We've got lots of content coming up. We're going to have special content specifically for the Patreons, as well as a new series on Hijrah, inshallah. So please go to the Patreon below and support the podcast. Assalamu alaikum salah.
إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء.
So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Assalamu alaikum salah. Welcome to the Young Smirks podcast. I'm here with a very special guest, a new convert to Islam, our brother Joseph, now Yusuf. Joe, now you've decided to take the name Yusuf, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it was a decision that was kind of made for me as well.
Okay. Who made it for you?
In my Shahada video, you know, I got dawah from a sister, and she says, "Congratulations, Yusuf, you're now a Muslim."
So that's it. You got no choice, right?
Yeah.
I know another Yusuf that happened to.
Yeah, really?
And now, like 10 years on, he's gone back to his original name. So, but I'm John. So what shall I refer to you as, Joe or?
You can do Yusuf.
Yusuf?
Yeah.
So you like it now?
Everyone here knows me as Yusuf.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah. So Yusuf, you're from Wales, and you're here in Istanbul. Tell us a bit about what were you doing in Istanbul, and how did you come across Islam, and
so
about your journey.
I came here originally for surgery on my leg. I was in a crash, basically. I used to teach people how to drive snowmobiles in Canada. And one day I was kind of messing around with my friends, and a mistake happened where my foot was dangling off my leg.
Wow.
So 3 surgeries later, you know, I decided to come here for surgery, for the last surgery, inshallah, to get the metal out of my leg. And then
that must have been quite worrying.
It was worrying, you know. It's been a long journey. I actually didn't think I'd ever walk again.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah, so it's been a roller coaster, that's for sure. Yeah.
So how did you get to Canada? Start there. I mean, you're born in Wales.
Yeah.
And then how do you end up teaching snowmobiling in Canada? That's not like an average job in Wales, is it?
No, it's definitely not. No, I don't even know if we have them. Maybe a couple farmers in the mountains, but that's it. No, I never even knew what a snowmobile was till I was 17 or 18. When I left home, I left Wales the day after my last exam, A-level exam.
Okay.
I went to the States, worked in the States for a couple months, summer camp type thing, you know. And then I ended up in Finland at a random job in 500 miles north of the Arctic Circle in a hotel. And there was snowmobiles, and I was like, this is amazing. I've never seen one of these before, you know?
Yeah.
And so after my first ride, I was like, okay, I gotta do this for work. This is a good time. So I did it for work in Finland for 3 years. And then I got I wouldn't say in trouble, but the police were prohibiting my fun, you know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of laws over there, speed limits on the trails.
Yeah. No donuts.
No donuts. You can only ride on the trail.
Okay.
It's like you're going through these beautiful miles of space of just fresh snow that you're not allowed to touch. I said, this is crazy, you know.
Yeah.
So Canada, British Columbia specifically, I wouldn't say it has no rules, but it's pretty free.
Yeah.
It's pretty free, for sure. So I decided to go there. As I was getting
interested. It must be beautiful. I mean, I've been to Vancouver, and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
the mountains.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So what, so you're out there teaching?
Yeah, I moved out there, got a job teaching. You know, started at the bottom on the easy tours. Had to learn how to ride though too, you know, because I was only riding on flat ground in Finland, just basic, boring kind of trail stuff. And then now I was going into the most aggressive, intense terrain, taking people out there, Canadians who knew how to ride, and showing them around places they couldn't get to or needed my help to get to. And so it was pretty intense learning curve, but you know, it was a good time.
So once you had your accident, you had a few operations, and that's how you ended up here in in Istanbul.
Yeah.
So along all these years you've been teaching and traveling, did you have a religion? Did you believe in God?
I would say I was the classic agnostic type person, where I believed in something, but I didn't ever put too much thought into it.
Yeah. You didn't like kind of pin it on a religion, or you just, there's something out there, but...
Yeah, you know, I was raised Roman Catholic, in Roman Catholic school. I went to church with my school, with my family occasionally, not too often. But I never liked it or agreed with it.
Yeah. Something didn't sit right.
Yeah, I was one of the few people in my group of friends, or my whole school maybe, who didn't take like my confirmation.
Right.
So even by that age,
That's quite a big statement, because a lot of people take it just to kind of go with the culture, right? Or even if you don't believe it, they just kind of do it.
Yeah, and I even did I attended all the training to like learn how to do it with after school classes and stuff. And
we have a similar thing cause I was raised in the Church of England, so it's not like you don't have to do it in the Church of England, but they do have something similar like a confirmation. Okay. It's not as strict as the Catholic Church, but I did that as well. You know, where the bishop comes and then you can take the bread and wine and stuff like that. Yeah. I did all the training for that, but I didn't believe it, you know. Yeah. But I just went through with it. I did it, completed it. So while you came to Istanbul for some surgery, what was your first impressions of coming to Istanbul? You know, it's still Western in a way, but you know, it has this kind of back culture of Islam and mosques and Muslims and adhan. How did you feel about this when you came?
I mean, I came with my family because I was coming for surgery, and my dad was living in Bulgaria, and he has like two young girls, you know. So I came with all of them, you know. And when I first came here, my main thing was I was worried about them, my little sisters, because like Istanbul is a huge city. There's so many people, so I was basically like walking like 10 or 15 paces behind my family and like just making sure they were safe the whole time, because I was just worried.
Really?
Yeah.
What was you worried for? Because it's a big city, or?
It's a big city. Like I heard a lot of, I guess you could say, negative information about the city, the levels of crime, stuff like that. And I didn't know anything about the people and the culture, so I kind of wanted to see how it was and just like play it on the safe side.
Yeah. So then, how did it come about that because I heard that basically you came to the mosque in Masjid Suleymaniye, and you started speaking to some of the brothers and eventually accepted Islam. I mean, that seems like a big jump from, okay, there's something out there, to, okay, I actually believe in Islam.
Yeah, it was a long journey, you know, for sure. Many crazy things happened. Like, for example, when I was in Canada, I was stuck there with a broken leg, you know. I couldn't work. I didn't have a place to live because I couldn't pay rent. So I was in my truck. And the reason I was stuck there is because the government wouldn't let me leave. If I didn't,
because COVID?
Yeah, because of COVID.
SubhanAllah.
So I was like stuck, you know, no family, nothing. So I did find some amazing Canadians to help me out. Basically saved my life. But it basically thrust me into this whole journey of trying to ask myself, like, why am I here? Like, what is my purpose? Like, what's the point of all of this? You know, like all of this pain, all this suffering, like, what's the reason for it, you know?
SubhanAllah.
And then just before I left Canada, I was asking these questions to the universe, you know, like my buddy was living on a mountain with no street lights or anything around, and one night it was just beautiful and clear, and I went out, like hiked up back behind his house, and I just like looked up at the sky, you know, and I just prayed out loud, which I'd never really done before. And I was like, if there's something there, like, show me, you know. I was so arrogant, you could say, you know, like demanding proof. And then the proof came, and this kept happening, you know. The one major proof came that time I did that, and then for the next few months, things just kept falling in place and like happening, and there was no way they could happen if it wasn't for like divine intervention, in my opinion.
Subhanallah, subhanallah.
So by the time I came here, I was like, there's a God.
Yeah,
But I didn't want to go back to Catholicism.
yeah.
I even tried to go into a church in Canada, and they told me to leave because I wouldn't wear a mask, you know. And I was like, okay, I'm saved. You know? And
Subhanallah.
yeah.
Subhanallah, brother, that's beautiful. I mean, you know, there's a verse in the Quran comes to mind. There's two verses actually, where it speaks about basically when people are on a sinking ship, they call out to God.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and I always say this, like the majority of converts or reverts, whatever you want to call us, they've been on the sinking ship. You know, they've been on that rock bottom. You know, they've reached a level of their life where they think, you know, it can't get worse than this, or they're in trouble, or whatever it is. And the last resort is to the fitrah. We have something in us which is the fitrah. It's like an innate, natural belief in God and understanding in God. We believe everyone has it. And even if you don't know nothing about Islam, every human being in that time of need will call out to God for help. But then Allah says that the majority of them, when you bring them back to the land, they forget about God.
Yeah.
You know, when you bring them to safety, when they get right again,
Yeah.
forget about God.
That's like, that goes back
Yeah.
to your earlier question of why I'm still in Istanbul.
Yeah.
That's the reason.
Yeah.
Because I know if I go back to Wales or Canada, I'm gonna have a hard time remaining in Islam or as a Muslim.
Because you've got some good brothers around you, good friends, good community.
Yeah.
And you're really just enjoying it, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm seeing that, you know. I've seen a lot of converts, right? But from what I've seen of yourself, you're really like mopping it up. You know, you're loving your time here. You've got good brothers around you. You're learning a lot. You're learning fast as well, mashallah.
yeah.
You know, you've learned how to pray really quickly. You know, you're praying or your salah straight away. You know, and this is something that a lot of converts struggle with. You know, getting into the prayer. But you know, there's a blessing of, like, you know, that time, like you said, you couldn't work because you're sick. I had exactly the same thing. I had a brain tumor.
Whoa.
And well, that was after I came to Islam.
Okay.
But the brain tumor, I wasn't allowed to work, and then I could do dawah, you know. And
Yeah.
but before that, a few things happened, and you know, basically I was having a difficult time in my life, and you start questioning what, you know, about God and stuff. And so it's a similar thing.
Yeah.
And when you do ask for a sign, the key point is that when Allah does give you a sign, you have to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, it's like, you get some atheists, you know, give me a sign, and something will happen, but they're just so arrogant that they're just refusing to connect the dots and realize that Allah's showing you many things.
Well, they don't, like, I've noticed they don't spend enough time remaining present and like observant in the world. You know, they just go back to being distracted with whatever was troubling them before, and they miss it.
Yeah.
They miss the sign.
So you came to the mosque.
Yeah.
How was it going in the mosque? What was your view of Muslims before you came to Istanbul? Before you came to Islam, did you have negative views of Islam? Did you know many Muslims growing up?
None.
None at all.
None. Never.
Wow.
I never met a person that said I'm a Muslim before
Wales,
I came
yeah.
here. Yeah.
And Canada as
In
well.
Wales, Canada, Finland, America,
Wow.
Sweden, Europe.
So how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 28.
So for 28 years, you'd not
Never
really
met.
met.
I never
like
met someone who said I'm a Muslim. You know,
Wow.
I figure I've been in their presence
Yeah.
once or twice, but nobody had ever
Yeah, you know.
explained what Islam was to me.
Wow.
Yeah. So actually, yeah, the story of me coming and finding this mosque is an interesting one too. I refused, before I entered this mosque, I refused to enter any other mosque out of respect. And maybe like a little trepidation, you know, like I'm not a Muslim. I don't know how to pray. I don't want to disrespect people who are in their place of worship,
Yeah.
doing their thing. Let's let them have at it. Like, you know, we'll stay away. And so I didn't go into any mosque, even though I had many, many opportunities. But then one day I took the metro for the first time from like the outskirts of Istanbul into the center to try and find a specific store, you know. And I got off way in the wrong place, like over 2 kilometers away. You know, I was like, what am I doing here, you know? And I don't, at that time I had no internet on my phone, nothing like that. I just had like the saved location. So it couldn't find my location or nothing like that. I had to try and figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, let's put my head down and just start tracking as fast as I can to try and find this place. And I just like did that exact thing. And then I found myself in the courtyard of this mosque. And I like look up, I'm like, oh, I can't keep going forwards, like there's a mosque in my way. But then I didn't think about it, I just went in the mosque.
So,
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, now I'm in a mosque, like what am I gonna do, you know? So I went up to the barrier.
and it happens to be like one of the only mosques where there's like da'is, like people calling people to Islam with books, and
Yeah.
like no other mosque is.
Well, yeah, maybe
you know,
one other,
yeah.
2 others maybe.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah. And I went up to the middle and I like prayed like a Christian, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm here, I might as well pray like everyone else is praying. But during my prayer, I was saying, I don't want to call you God. I don't want to refer to you as Lord, because you sound like a rich English guy, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to call you, but I don't know, and I don't know why I'm in a mosque.
SubhanAllah.
But here I am, and like I need guidance. Like I don't know why I'm in Istanbul. Like, please, like help me out.
SubhanAllah.
And I was praying for about 10 minutes, kind of going through the same stuff. And a sister came up and approached me, and kind of interrupted my prayer, you could say, but it was fine. And she said, "Hey, excuse me, you speak English?" I said, "Yeah, of course." And she said, "Do you want to learn about Islam?"
SubhanAllah.
I said, "Why not?"
SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah. That's
Yeah.
deep, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it before. And so we sat there for 2-3 hours on the mosque floor, on the carpet. And even during that conversation, I was like praying for strength because I needed the bathroom. My legs were hurting, I just had surgery. I was like, just let me remain present in this conversation to absorb whatever it is, whatever guidance you want me to be shown, allow me to like the strength to receive it. And then as she started going through the pillars of faith and everything like that, explaining the prophets, some of them I never knew, of course. I just said like, I think I've been a Muslim my whole life. But I never knew Muslim.
Yeah.
I never knew what Islam was. But like this makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
It's logical. You're encouraged to think and use your brain. Why not? So I took my shahada.
MashaAllah. You know, it's amazing, man. It's amazing. You know, it is that simple. You know, people, they make it so difficult. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
someone who's sincere, looking for God, looking for Allah, you know, he's going to find it. It's like we believe everyone is programmed to know this, the basics, you know, like there's something there. Like you said, you know, I agree with you, like the concept of the word God, the word Lord in English, it has a kind of we have this kind of Judeo-Christian understanding, or like you said, like an old English person, Lord, or a God is like a man with a beard on a cloud, and I was the same thing. I was like, that's not what I believe in. You know, I believe in something, but I can't imagine it, and that's exactly what Islam teaches. And people deep down, they do know this. They do know this, but they're just deluded. They're busy with the life. They're occupied in their daily lives with, you know, busying themselves with money or family, whatever it is.
Things, yeah.
And it isn't until you get that calamity when you're like, you got time to think, you got a lot of time, and it's a blessing sometimes. Sometimes these things that happen to us, Allah says in the Quran that it might be that you hate something that is good for you, or you love something that is bad for you. You know, like we hate the fact that, you know, we get sick or we get hurt or there's an earthquake or whatever it may be. But a lot of the time this wakes people up.
Yeah. I needed it, man.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I had a busy mind, you know, and that's why I went to extreme sports for a job, you know.
Yeah.
And when I wasn't doing that in the winter, I was firefighting like wildfires in Canada, you know, in the
Wow.
summer. I just like I couldn't go to sleep unless I was physically and mentally exhausted, you know.
Wow.
So I was riding around like on top of those mountains, like looking for God, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Subhanallah.
Yeah.
So when you was told about the basics of Islam, the concept of God, Allah, you know, the prophets, the basic message, just made absolute sense to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we sat for 3 hours because I was asking questions, things that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then the sister was giving me stories that might relate to me. Like
What
Prophet
sort of
Yusuf.
concerns did you have? What sort of questions did you have at the time?
You know, I didn't know much about the angels.
Yeah.
I didn't know much about most of the prophets, as I said. And like I was like, what do you mean I need to believe in all the prophets? So I need to go study all the prophets and all their lives and agree with everything they did before I can like determine if this is the right path or not. And she's like, no, like that's not what it's like at all. You just need to understand that they came with the same message. When the message was corrupted, another one came.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And I said, okay, easy. Yeah. But then I don't think any of it was too hard for me to digest. It was mostly just absorbing the knowledge.
So how is it since being a Muslim? Like how have you, and also how was learning the prayer, the salah? Because I know this is something you're really keen on. A lot of converts are shying away from the prayer, and it's because it's like a burden. And how do you manage to do that 5 times a day? But this is something I've noticed from you, that you're really into it.
Yeah.
Not just the 5 daily prayers, but you know you're doing a lot of extra salah, and you know you've learnt the prayer as well, you know, properly.
Yeah. There's still some things I'm
Yeah.
learning. You know, I still need to learn a second verse.
Yeah.
You know, for example, but I've got Al-Fatiha and a couple of the other phrases down,
Mashallah.
and the cycles, you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, you know, I'm lucky. You know, I'm fortunate because I was guided here, but at the same time, I was allowed the opportunity to be not burdened down with any responsibilities pulling me away from this.
Yeah.
You know, like I can fully commit to learning everything I need to know with 24 hours of the day, 7 days a week. You know, and so that's what I've done as best I can, and I stayed in this Dawah center almost every day, just learning from all the volunteers what it means to be a Muslim. You know, every time I had a question, there's someone there, at least 2 or 3 people there I could ask. You know, so that helps with the with the speed of the learning process. When you're always praying with a Muslim who knows how to pray, you know, it helps.
Yeah.
Helps a lot.
That's similar to what I did. Like every day I just go to the mosque, sit with the brothers, having tea or whatever. You just you just absorb so much.
Yeah.
Just being in the environment.
Yeah.
And praying in the mosque, you just learn how to pray properly and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great environment to learn though. You know, with the big beautiful mosques, and it's got that kind of cultural thing going on as well.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give to non-Muslims who are in the situation that you were in? You know, they believe in something, but maybe they've got misconceptions about Islam. They think Islam's evil, or they believe in what they're seeing in the media, or they just
That's the first problem.
worried, or there's, you know.
Yeah. The first thing is, don't believe what you see in the media. That's the first golden rule of life. Understand who's funding the media. Look into it. All this information is out there. You can see everything. Most things in society are corrupt, especially at the top. So once you see that the media are just, sending out a message, like simultaneously, all these media outlets are sending the same message. You gotta ask yourself why. Like, why is it like scripted? Why is it, if you flip through the news channels, literally you could catch the same conversation on every single news station, you know? Islam is bad, they're all terrorists, we must fight against ISIS and Islam and all this, you know? It's like, big thing is, you gotta ask, what don't they want you to know? You know, for example, I mean, this was revealed to people clearly, plain as day, in the last 2 years, 3 years during the COVID pandemic. If you were sleeping, you probably missed it. But if you were like asking questions about why things are happening this way, you could see everything plain as day. They're doing these things to control you. They're hiding the alternative media so you don't see it, so you don't get all the information you're meant to get before you make a decision you might not want to make. So really people need to be more inclined to research things deeply before they completely write it off or make the wrong decision. And you got to ask, why does Islam have such a bad name in the West? Why? When Islam literally means peace and submission. You go to any Muslim country, they're the most beautiful people in the world. You know, they're the most kind-hearted. They'll give you the shoes off their feet. They'll feed you with whatever they have. They'll give the last of their money to you. They're like the nicest people in the world. So what is it that the Western media and governments don't want you to know? You know, why do they want you to think these things about Islam? That's what I would say. You know, people got to start asking these deep questions. Not just believing everything that they're told, you know. Like, that's a big problem in the West. And the other problem is everyone wants to be like everyone else. You know, everyone wants to have that Gucci bag, that car, whatever it is, the gold chain. Nobody cares, you know. Like, once you stop caring about obtaining those materialistic things that could be gone any day, somebody could literally rob you, take everything you have. Once you stop caring about that, you become like powerful, because you can like live without nothing. Nobody can tell you to do anything. You just say no to anything. So people gotta put down their phones, stop trying to be like everyone else, and start asking questions. That's my advice.
Exactly. It's good advice. You know, get reading, do some research. You know, a third or at least a quarter of the world is Muslim. Possibly a third of the world, you know, identify as Muslims.
Exactly. Why is that? You know.
Yeah, it's a massive amount of people. Like, whether you want to believe it or not, whether you're interested or not, it's something you should be informed about.
Exactly.
You know, go and do some reading.
Yeah.
You might be shocked. You might realize you actually believe it, and you might realize you've been Muslim all your life and you don't know it. So exactly. It's been nice to speak to you, and maybe we'll do a podcast in a few months. See how you're getting along.
Okay.
And
check in.
Yeah, we ask everyone to make dua for your leg as well. I know you're still going through some difficulties with your leg as well.
Thank you, brother.
But inshallah, we ask Allah to you know, get you back to full recovery. Ameen.
Inshallah.
And Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء